Hello and welcome to the HQ Movie Review Podcast. I'm Josh,
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Brandon.
and we just watched Cars 3.
Real fun.
So, I had never seen Cars 3, and I've also still never seen Cars 2.
Good.
I probably will never see Cars 2, but I did kind of just assume that Cars 3 would be equally bad. And I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this movie.
I've seen Cars 3 a couple of times, and honestly, it gets better every time I watch it. I find I like it more than I remember.
Yeah, I've seen all of the Cars movies. I've also played the Cars Wii game, which is a surprisingly very deep game. It's very fun. And has a great soundtrack. I also
Interesting.
like the movie.
I have also never seen the movie, so I just knew random tidbits of things about the plot, and so I was like, how are they gonna get there the whole time? But overall, I thought it was pretty good.
I'd love to know what specific tidbits you knew about the plot.
We'll get to that later.
I also had never seen Cars 3 and have not seen Cars 2, but I did have the ending spoiled for me, so I knew where this was going.
I will say, the very first note I have is that Cars 2 is completely unnecessary.
It is.
You don't really need it. It's a movie about Mater being a spy.
It's like the bad side quest before you get to the, fulfilling.
Yeah, they gave, after Cars 1, they gave Mater a bunch of, TV shorts that the kids loved, and then they went, hey, Pixar, what if you guys gave Mater a movie? And Pixar was like, hey, yeah, I guess you're my boss, I can, but...
And then they found out that there is such a thing as too much Mater.
Yeah.
And they learned their lesson. I think Mater had about 5 minutes total of screen time this
he
movie.
had as much as he needed.
They really overcompensated, course corrected. We're like, okay, Mater's in this one, because we know some people will be so upset if they don't see him, but he's in there as little as possible.
Yeah. Larry the Cable Guy got to say his catchphrases, and he got a couple of, good points. And then for the rest of the movie, it was just Lightning McQueen and Cruz. We're just doing story.
I was not prepared for the getting old bit.
Oh yeah, they really hammered that one in.
As the oldest of our friend group, it felt a little targeted. Everyone's like, "Oh, we need to watch Cars 3. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great." Get into the movie. Man, you're old, McQueen. You need to retire. The whole movie.
Josh really came out here to have fun, but is feeling so attacked right now.
That doesn't even date the podcast because it's such an old reference already.
I know. That's why I said it.
What I think that the multi-property Pixar, or the multi-series Pixar stories do really well, like Toy Story and Cars, is that the later ones, they really kind of age with the audience while still remaining kids' stories.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
agree.
because
The ones Pixar wanted to make, yes.
yeah. Because Cars 3, it's the whole, the story of passing the torch. And I think a little bit, Toy Story 4 does that same thing of just kind of, realizing, oh, I've been doing this a long time, and maybe it's time to do other things.
Toy Story 3 and 4 are both about passing the torch.
Yeah.
But it works both times, I will say.
Toy Story 4 was completely unnecessary, though.
I love Toy Story 4.
I did not say it was not
recognize
good.
that
I'm not
it is
gonna argue either
unnecessary,
point.
but I love that one.
Yeah, it's great. They didn't need to, but they did, and it's good. I'll take it.
I have not seen Toy Story 4.
Is Toy Story on the list?
Well, it needs to be.
All right, cool.
It's going to be so
I can
long
check.
before we get to 4.
You could just do 4.
But the others are also
They're
good.
all
I
so
know they're
good.
Except the dog in Toy Story 1. That looks
God.
kind of jank.
The
man.
animation is going to be such a jarring rip to look at the first Toy Story.
Especially after tonight.
Oh,
good.
yeah, they
Can we
went
talk about
hard
that
in the
animation
paint.
for a while?
Toy Story is
Oh.
not on the list.
Wow, it's
All
not
right, well,
interesting.
I think we've just unanimously voted in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the list now.
Well, now I gotta add it.
Yeah, so the animation in this movie was like Pixar. as Jack put it, was just hard flexing the entire movie.
This photorealistic
The whole
dirt
time.
and paint chippings and like physics.
Like the paper for everything was like every old paper was just like had some wrinkles in it and the little tears and the water ripples as they're driving past.
If you took a still from this movie where you couldn't see that the cars had faces, it would look like a photograph.
Actually, yeah. No, there were a couple scenes where they were doing like establishing shots, and I was looking at like the foliage and the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
And it did absolutely look just like a real photograph.
If it weren't for the car-shaped hills in the background.
Yeah.
I actually I just thought of this. Yesterday I watched The Lion King. The animated Lion King.
Okay.
Good.
Not this recent one. And as I was watching the intro and all the colors and just the way that everything looked, I was like, man, why did we have to take this hard turn to this like photorealistic, like why do we have to try and be so lifelike? And then we watched this today and I'm like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's incredible, stunning, fantastic.
I think the issue isn't necessarily photorealism, it's idealization. Like Lion King is very much like, this is how beautiful the African Serengeti looks in our hearts. And the same thing with Cars 3. It's like, hey, look, this is like how beautiful, this is like perfect Americana. It's like pretty and scenic, and we're not going to talk about like any of the bad things that actually can be found here. It's just the pretty stuff. And that one's a cartoon and this one's photorealistic, but the important thing is that it's idealized and nice to look at.
There was a time when they were attempting to do photorealism, and they no one quite could get it right for a little bit, which is why I feel like a lot of people got turned off by like photorealistic animation.
Oh yeah. It's
And
that uncanny valley.
yeah, exactly the uncanny valley effect, where it's like it looks better than it did before, but not good enough, and so somehow it makes it look worse.
Yeah. It's also just the march of technology. Something that looks like a nice cartoon is always going to look like a nice cartoon. Something that looks really realistic now is going to look terrible in a couple of years because we've seen how good it can look by then. Like Shrek still looks amazing actually, but
But you
Sure,
know the,
yeah.
the some bits that don't.
yeah, there's some
Yeah.
parts of Shrek that don't look great. They just do not hold up. And there's some parts that still actually look amazing, but if it was just 2D animated, it would always look good. It would always look as good.
Yeah, it would be its own thing and not kind of portrayed up against the backdrop of reality.
Or a video game approach. If you look at The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, it's always going to look like a nice cartoon. Because it's got like the big shapes and the cell shading. But like Ocarina of Time, which is a great game, does not hold up as well. Because even though the graphics were very like realistic and serious for the time, they're real blocky and weird now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Rachel, you wanted to know what points I had spoiled for me before watching this movie.
Yeah, I want to know exactly what details you had and what you thought was how you're going to get there.
So, all I knew going into this movie was that McQueen basically dies in the beginning, and then at the end, he retires. That's all I knew. I knew nothing of the in-between. But I was like, knowing McQueen, how is he gonna make the decision to retire? But I was like, I know the beginning and I know the end. How we get there, I have no idea. But I'm in it for the long term.
The first time that I went into this movie, all that I knew about it was that McQueen gets in that horrible, horrible crash at the beginning, and that people were saying that this movie was super anti-millennial.
I mean, yeah, for first things first, the McQueen Dies trailer set like the internet on fire. That was what sold me on this movie. I was like, oh, they're making another Cars movie? And then I saw the trailer, and the first scene was McQueen flying through the air in a wreck. And I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm on board. I need to see what happens. But also, yeah, the main actual villain, because there's two antagonists, I'd say. there's Sterling, the new like manager, and then there's Jackson Storm, who's like actually a villain. He's a dick, and he's just like, yeah, I'm the new kid on the block, and I'm super cool, and you're old. You need to retire. Also, fuck you. Like, yeah, clearly the young guy is the villain here, but also, it didn't actually end up being that way, which is nice.
Also, the whole time, I kept thinking about the movie in terms of the first movie. Because in Cars 1, Lightning McQueen comes in, he's the rookie, right? He shows up, and he's the asshole.
Yeah.
Right?
It's cyclical.
And so now you've got this new rookie and all the new rookies showing up, and they're all the assholes.
Yeah, it's like George Lucas says, it's poetic, it rhymes.
Sure.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, and so the whole time I'm just thinking, it was like, they're just doing the first movie again, but from the viewpoint or from the POV of the king.
Yeah.
It's literally just the
He's-
king
he's
going,
the
all right,
AIDS
I'm
champion
gonna
in his last
retire now.
race.
There really is just a hard fatal crash to crew chief pipeline.
For real.
In
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, first you got Doc Hudson. And you can see in the beginning of this one that the king is the crew chief for Dynaco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After his fatal crash in the
After
first
his
movie.
fatal crash, I'm pretty sure that Dusty, Smokey,
Smokey.
I'm pretty sure that Smokey was a racer before he was Doc's crew chief.
It seems pretty heavily implied.
Chances are pretty high.
I mean, there's no evidence he got in a crash, was there?
No, there isn't any evidence of that, but it's still like the racer to crew chief pipeline, and most of the examples we have is a terrible crash in the middle.
The master apprentice lineage line.
Okay.
Always
okay.
two there are.
But how did Doc die? Because, like, if Smokey was his crew chief and he's still alive, clearly it's probably not old age. And at the same, how old is McQueen? Because
Car
like, he-
cancer.
Fair. That sure. But still, how old is McQueen? Because sure, they kept calling him old, but how long has he been racing?
Okay, I don't have an answer for how long McQueen's been racing, but I will give you the Wikipedia on Doc Hudson.
Oh no.
Well, let's put it this way. We found out in this movie that from the time Doc had crashed and like left his hometown and went to Radiator Springs until Lightning McQueen showed up in the first movie was 50 years.
Yeah.
He legitimately
true.
said it had been 50 years he never heard from him, and then he started getting letters and stuff, and it's like, hold on. And there were a lot of letters. So unless he's sending out like multiple letters a week, he had been racing for a while. And if Doc had already been away for 50 years, I have no idea how long their lifespans are.
Well, we also have the like crazy old lady car
Yeah.
at Radiator
Yeah, she's like a
Springs.
Model
Like she
A.
was clearly still there in this one. She
Yeah.
didn't say anything, but she was still there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
her husband, who founded the town, was not there. There
He
is a
wa-
memorial.
He wasn't there from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So initially, Doc Hudson's is named after the friend of one of the voice actor of the sheriff. The guy is named Doc Mason. Initially, when I read, because it was like under the Google search results, one of them was "How did Doc Hudson die?" And the first thing is Doc Mason died after a long battle with Alzheimer's, which I initially misread as Doc Hudson, and I was very confused about how this car got Alzheimer's. There is actually no canon information about how Doc Hudson dies.
So I do have information on how old Lightning McQueen is.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Because according to the Pixar Cars fandom wiki,
Mm-hmm.
he is 40 years old as of 2017, which is when this movie came out.
40.
40. It also tells me that he has won 7 Piston Cups since his debut season in 2006.
Okay.
So as of 2017, he was 40?
Yes.
I mean, for like professional racing, that kind of tracks, I guess.
So he started at 29?
He started. So it says he was born in 77, and he started in 2006. So that
Okay.
would be 29 was his debut season.
Good job on that. Quick maths.
Now, earlier during the movie, we mentioned that Lightning McQueen is his given name.
Yes.
Yes.
That is not
it
his
not?
given name.
Whoa,
Did
whoa,
he legally
whoa.
change it? Because that's what
I
it
have
says.
here his actual first name.
Is it Larry?
Please take guesses as to what his actual first
Well,
name is.
my guess is Larry. I've called Larry. He's Larry McQueen.
It starts with
Lawrence.
an F, doesn't it?
Eric.
Geronimo. I'm taking a hard. I'm
All
going
I'm
the,
gonna say
is
is that it
wild
starts
route.
with an
Fauntleroy.
F.
Why do you think it starts with an F?
I don't know, but I get that vibe.
His first name is Montgomery.
I think that I was the closest with Geronimo.
You know what? I'll give that to Rachel.
Montgomery McQueen. All right.
It
He's got
took
the
me a
alliteration.
second to realize that this was Lightning McQueen's wiki because it just says Montgomery McQueen.
Are you sure it's not his dad?
Bro.
Question mark.
But no, it's Montgomery, quote, Lightning McQueen.
That is amazing.
And I don't know if this is ever mentioned in the first movie or not.
It is never
It's
mentioned in
not
any of the
mentioned.
movies.
Why isn't
There's not
that
a
in the
single
IMDb?
There's not a single place in any of the movies where that is mentioned.
Where was this information found? The manga?
Yeah. Yeah, what's the source on? Is there a source for this?
I mean, it's a fandom wiki, but those are typically accurate.
Yeah, those are typically pretty well checked. I'm like, is there like a usually they have the little footnotes. Is there like a footnote for this information?
Yeah, what's the source?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it, but it just keeps saying Montgomery. Like, you'd think they'd just stick with Lightning because that's what everyone knows him as, but it keeps saying stuff like for Cars Tunes Mater's Tall Tales. The show begins with Mater telling Montgomery what he used to be and did in the past. However, Montgomery never believes Mater, and it's what?
That's amazing. He uses his freaking legal name for the entire thing. They don't call him McQueen. It's Montgomery the whole way down. That's amazing.
Are you sure you're not in the Legends tab?
That's like if someone made like a wiki page about Mickey Mouse, but he was Michael the whole time.
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Mouse.
No, I have it. So, in the extension work Struck by Lightning, McQueen reveals that his original name was Monty and that Lightning is a nickname.
Monty.
We are
McQueen.
in Disney Plus. I need the source material.
I think
right
it might be
now.
a book.
It sounds like a book.
Ugh.
That's amazing. It is in the manga.
It's in the light novels. Okay.
Wow.
That's
Well,
amazing.
Good old Montgomery, huh?
It is indeed a book. It's Cars Origins Struck by Lightning.
Cars Origins Wolverine.
The failed spin-off series. Yeah, he goes to Japan, fights a samurai car.
this is the exact kind of content I would have gotten in so much trouble for as a cast member. Like,
It's canon, but you're not supposed to talk about it.
one of the things that Disney cast members do is they trade pins, but sometimes they'll have mystery pins and they'll say like, "Oh, if you can answer this little trivia question,
Tell me,
I'll
child,
tell you what."
what is Lightning McQueen's real name?
I'm gonna square up to some little like 8-year-old and be like, "You tell me Lightning McQueen's legal first name, and I will give you any of these pins and $10 out of the cash register."
What does it say on his manufacturer certificate?
Tell me Lightning McQueen's VIN number right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. But you brought up the factory whatever. Where do cars come from?
And ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the meat of the episode. Cars
boy.
physiology. That one guy had a grandpa? What does that mean?
Yeah. How do you have even parents?
There are child cars,
There
they
are old
reproduce,
cars.
but
Do they-
also they have like makes and models.
Yeah.
Do they grow? Do they start out as small cars? Like, we saw the one fan was a really small Volkswagen Beetle, but like, was that just a small car, or is that a child car that gets bigger? Does the car physically grow?
We
Yeah.
never see an adolescent car, like
Yeah.
in the awkward teen
There are
years.
adult cars and then a couple child cars. There are clearly younger and older cars, but like Jackson Storm and all of the other rookie cars have like the same design. So clearly they are like a certain like type of stock car, but also there's a school bus. She's too small to fit other cars in. What rides in the school bus? Where do they go?
Small cars.
No, there's a
No,
regular
that-
sized
no,
school bus.
He has
though.
a point.
There's a
Small
regular-
cars.
They can't be that. We've never seen the car that small.
The child
the
cars
little-
go in the school bus. You can't fit as many child cars.
Okay, so
Into
that was
a school bus
that
as
was a
as
school
many
bus for like
children.
6. That was a short bus.
Basically.
Miss
Yeah.
Frizzy, whatever her name was, she was the short bus.
Miss Frizz.
That was her name. It was
Yeah,
like Frizzy
no, I
or
think it
Fritzy or
was, yeah.
something.
No,
was
it
Miss
was
Fritter.
like Fritter.
Fritter,
Yeah.
Miss Fritter.
Yeah.
That's a
I'll-
magic school bus.
That's Miss
there-
Frizzle.
Yeah, there is a
Miss
school bus
Frizzle.
out there named Frizzle.
It's her cousin.
So
the-
the new Miss Frizzle?
And then the question comes in, like, are they born like in eggs, or like how? How?
Amazingly,
they
eggs
built?
came into this, but yeah, there's.
I mean, I didn't want to mention live birth, but you know,
they go to a mechanic and get a smaller car removed from the trunk. I
Oh,
guess
jeez.
they have a school system. That's nice.
They do. Like she even mentioned like the school district.
Yeah,
Like clearly schools are a thing.
they have parents.
the sad part about all this
They
is
can be
like
attracted to each other.
you're very clearly born for a specific role. Like if you're born a school bus,
That's it. That's
you
that's the
know what
game.
you're gonna be.
Okay, so I feel like every time we talk about cars physiology, which is not often, but more often than you'd think, I always come back to that one deleted scene from the first movie, where instead of hitching him up to old Bessie to fix the road, they take out his engine and put him into a bulldozer so he can fix the road like after he messes it up the first time. And it's essentially like a brain transplant. Like they took his engine out, put him in a different body, and that's him now.
Now, this does bring up another question. If they can do that, then why don't we just put Lightning McQueen in a younger racer body?
Well, that's the thing. They have to get that body from somewhere, which also, I guess, begs the question of where they would have got the body in the original scene, and I understand why it's cut now. But point being, like, car bodies have to come from somewhere, I guess.
Also, I feel like it would be his engine that's getting old, and
Yeah.
not the body.
You could probably like fix a lot of the other
'Cause
stuff,
I'll be honest,
though.
When after that crash, there's not a single part besides that engine that's still the same on
Yeah.
McQueen.
Which that's where I got the initial why don't they give him a better body from, is because like a lot of the like build on the other cars is to reduce like air resistance
Yeah,
and
drag,
Yeah.
so
increased downforce, all that stuff.
yeah, and they said that that's like where a lot of the percentages in their speed increases
Mhm.
come from.
So they could absolutely just give him a different shaped body, even a slightly differently shaped body.
I'll be honest. I kind of thought that's where the movie was going, because like I said, I never saw the movie, never saw a trailer, never knew anything about this movie coming in. When I was watching it and they're talking about like the body stuff and the stuff and all the efficiencies and all that, I 100% expected that when they got to that raceway center or whatever and Sterling shows up, especially when they get to the point where they like give him the new body wrap like paint job thing, I was like, oh, okay. So they're just gonna like swap him out and give him all the new fancy stuff, and then he's gonna go on and like initially do better, and then after such and such the plot line goes on, he realizes he never even needed those in the begin with, throws them all off, and then races in the end.
I imagine it's a bit like plastic surgery. Like you're changing your paint job is like kind of like changing a haircut, but changing the shape of your like chassis is like plastic surgery to them, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So it might not be as like regular.
But I fully expected that was going to be the route the movie was going to take, was that he was going to get all the same upgrades and then realize the power was within him all along and he didn't need them and he just threw them away and then won the race on his own. and then they threw Cruz in there, and then it was very clear from the point where they started doing the dual training thing that that's where it was going. But all the way up until that point, I'm like, were they
It's a good twist, I think.
gonna do that? How are they gonna make him win?
I don't know if it's a twist if it's like halfway through the movie. It's a good turn, I guess.
Yeah, it's less of a twist.
You do still kind of get that I didn't need these things all along, though, in the
Yeah.
when he's running through the woods and
Yeah.
he rips up the high tech.
The
Oh
high-tech
yeah,
The
wrap
wrap.
comes off.
yeah,
It's a very nice visual metaphor. But also, it brings up the issue of like, so some cars have faster engines than others, but also you can train. Like,
Yeah.
Cruz mentions that she used to, like in high school or whatever, she used to get up and run laps. So, like, clearly, racing is the track and field metaphor, and you can practice and get better at it. So, does your engine change?
yeah. So they did the whole entire movie was leaning way more towards the track and field side versus actual car racing.
Which makes
Like-
sense, I guess.
Like the first movie felt like a racing movie, like a car racing movie, and this movie actually felt a lot more like
This is a sports movie,
yeah,
like a traditional sports movie.
yeah, it felt like a track and field movie, like cross country running, not cross country, but like I guess track running, yeah.
Yeah.
But it felt more like a running movie than anything else because they're like talking about training and like you're tensing up, like all of these runner things that are not really part of driving, but then every now and again they'd be like throw in an actual driving thing.
Well, it can't all be driving because some of that doesn't translate.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine if during a marathon someone just did a fucking backflip over someone else?
No, imagine during a marathon at the very end, someone tries to shove someone into a wall and they do a fucking kickflip off the wall.
And win. That would be dope. What are you talking about?
It's like, no, you're not gonna win. Shoves them into a wall. They run grinding up against the wall for like 50 feet, and then they go, no, I'm gonna win. Jump off the wall, do a flip over the other person, and then beat them.
Oh my god, Cars is a sports anime.
Okay, I do want to say that the flip is a really nice callback because it's shown that Doc does it.
Right, yeah.
I am 90% sure that Lightning does it in the first movie.
He does a similar move. There's like a big crash in the opening race, and he like jumps off
He
of a
jumps
guy who's
off,
upside down.
Yeah, he jumps off the
Yeah.
tires
and
of
then he
another
does like a Michael Jordan tongue out ka-chow thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he
It's
keeps
kind of-
going.
Kind of disrespectful, the car he jumped off of.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
I
That guy
mean,
just crashed, and he's like, you're a ramp now.
Oh, also, the fact that Cruz did the whole jump off the wall thing, she never knew Doc did that.
Yeah, they told her about it in a story once, and she's like,
Yeah.
well, I saw the flashback because it's a movie, so I know how to do it.
Yeah, she never saw that. She just went, "Oh, I can do that too." No,
she wasn't.
she wasn't even there for
She
that.
wasn't there for the.
She
scene.
wasn't there for the story.
Was she not?
No,
No.
No, she
Oh.
wasn't.
no.
Yeah.
So that just is like, nah. She just did that.
Wait.
No, she
Wait,
was there
she
because
was
that was
there.
Yeah, that
'Cause
was,
that
in,
was
the
in the
bar.
bar.
It was
He was
in the
like he was
bar.
fast until he wasn't, and then he told the story about the rookie.
He never let himself touch the ball unless he wanted to.
Yeah, and then he told the story about the rookie where Doc Hudson still won anyway, which really didn't make sense based on that lead-in. But
Yeah.
yeah, then he told that story to McQueen and Cruz, so she was there to hear it.
Yeah.
I guess he just described it really well.
Okay. But either way, it was still just like she never saw it, and she did it the exact same way.
Because racing's in her. I was gonna say her blood. That doesn't make any sense.
It's in her
It's
oil.
in her oil.
They
But
drink
they drink
that.
oil.
Yeah, that's their. That's
It's
like
in her gas.
that's like it's in her Gatorade.
That's actually a really good branding opportunity, though. Racing's in your Gatorade. Like that's a sports drink,
Yeah.
bud.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
Sponsored.
if track runners had to like stop and run down a separate track to change shoes every couple of laps?
Oh my god.
Can you imagine if a guy was running track and then his shoes exploded and he couldn't run anymore?
His shoes exploded and he goes flipping.
Well, no, his shoes explode and then he has to limp to the finish line while two other guys sprint to catch up to him, and he wins by sticking his tongue out.
He didn't win, he tied.
He tied. He ties by sticking his tongue out at the last second.
Which is not how track racing works whatsoever.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess not.
all right. How does track racing? What part of your body needs to cross the finish
It has
line?
to be your chest.
What
Oh,
part of
okay.
your chest?
It's
Your-
like
your
the
chest.
breastbone of your chest, which is why you always
Okay.
see racers like lean at the finish line.
Yeah, see,
Gotcha.
I assumed it was just the first part, which also would have suggested leaning.
No,
if
it's
the
like it's like
head.
the plane with your shoulders or whatever.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Because if it
Huh.
were the first body part, we'd also see people just like do the splits at the finish line to get their toe across.
I guess that makes
I
sense.
more imagined throwing an arm out in
Yeah, I
front
figured
of
that was just so
Yeah.
they didn't get hurt doing a split on track. That is not soft material.
you. Yeah.
Imagine doing a baseball slide on the track gravel.
Oh God,
Oof.
I did that by accident once, and it hurt very
Ooh.
much.
I know someone who tripped at the finish line of a 400 meters. They were out for 3 weeks because they had track rash all
Yeah,
over their body.
That hurts my soul to hear.
Yeah.
Oh
about.
no.
Did they win?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Bummer.
You fool.
Speaking of track racing relating to cars, there is somewhat of a good analogy to technology making people faster.
Okay.
yeah.
Where recently there has been a shoe called the Nike Vaporfly,
Oh yeah.
which has
Yeah.
been scienced to hell and back and basically just makes anyone that wear it 50% better at running.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In fact, I'm pretty sure they banned it.
Some places have banned it. It has not been banned overall because there have already been world records established with those shoes.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube video about that actually that I forgot about until now, but like it's because running with shoes on physically makes the way you run differently. Like when you don't have shoes on, you don't hit with your heel the same way you would when you have that big cushion there.
Okay. I don't know anything about the shoes to know why it would make you faster.
I remember reading something about it a while ago, and I think it was like when one of the world records was set, that they were just like, hey, is this a problem? We don't know.
Brandon, do you know what makes the shoe special?
So basically, the shoes have so much cushion, and the plate that they have in the sole is insanely efficient at just transferring your energy forward instead of it being lost into the ground like normal shoes would.
Okay.
And it just makes you that much faster, and your feet don't wear out as much. So you can just go longer and faster.
That makes
I
sense.
see.
So the only thing that I know about this is there was a game theory video on it about how fast Sonic is. And he basically went is like, well, how is Sonic running? So there's two different ways to run. There's where you land on your heel, which is how most professional runners, like people who run in races, that's typically how they run because shoes have all the padding in the heel for you to run that way. But when you don't run with shoes, you always typically land on the balls of your feet, which is how you're supposed to run because it's smoother for your knees. So it makes it better for you when running. And so that's all I know about running, is that typically you're supposed to run on the balls of your feet, but because of how shoes are made, it makes it to where you want to run on your heel instead of the front of your foot.
Yes, that's true for long distance running. If you're
Yeah.
doing like a sprint, you need to be on the balls of your feet. But if you're
Yes.
doing like a mile, you're gonna be doing like heel strike running, where you land on your heel.
So if I could pivot real quick,
Go ahead.
I did want to talk about the inclusion of there's two racers that had to like fight to be allowed to race. There was the one obvious one was like the first female racer who's like, yeah, they didn't want girls racing with them. They were scared to lose. And she had to like steal a number and race anyway. But then there was the guy next to her who also had to fight to win or to fight to be able to race. And they didn't really explicitly say why in the movie that he wasn't initially allowed to race. But he seemed to be like African American coded, if you know what I mean. Like, obviously they couldn't be like, oh, he's a black car, because that's just the paint color and that changes regularly. But like, I don't know, something about like the voice, like the mannerisms, kind of gave it away. Also, there was no other discernible reason why he couldn't race. I think, like, it didn't seem like there was like
Yeah.
anything else about him that was different than any of the other cars.
It kind of felt like if you weren't looking for it, you might have missed it just because it was like he had one throwaway line where it was like, yeah, I couldn't. They didn't want me racing either, but once I was in, I never wanted to leave.
Yeah,
Right? And that was it. That's all he really said about not initially being allowed to race. And so if you weren't like actively paying attention and thinking about it, it's just like,
it would just gone right by.
yeah.
So I thought that was cool. There was a lot of references to the evolution of the sport and the history, like how
The moonshine
yeah
reference.
they're running moonshine. It started out as a reference, and then they're like, "Hey, we need to make this more obvious. We were running moonshine," which
Yeah.
is how racing got started during Prohibition. People who were making moonshine had to make their cars faster to outrun the cops, and then Prohibition ended. But they're like, "Yeah, but we still want to like test our cars and make them fast and stuff," and so they started NASCAR, and that's how racing started in America,
Yep.
which is neat. It's a neat little history thing. They also talk about drafting for the first time in the series,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
which I never really I remember watching the movie, but I forgot that like Lightning didn't know about it because he's never had to do it before,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is a
no,
nice excuse.
He knew about it.
Yeah, he knew about it, but he'd never
He
done
had
it.
shame.
He's like, oh, I never needed to do that. And he's like, yeah, that's when you were fast.
Now you're
Now
slow.
you're slow. You gotta do it.
I do really like the messaging in that though of the just because like the younger faster people have showed up and or like just because someone's like better at it doesn't mean work harder, just work smarter.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a nice message.
Which is another thing, is like, that's way more track and field kind of stuff, because in actual NASCAR, pretty sure all the specs for the body style, like the aerodynamics, the engine, all that stuff, identical. It has
Well,
to be the same.
It's not exactly.
They have a tolerance.
Yeah, they have a lot of tolerances, and like initially when stock car racing became a thing, they were stock cars. They were just like, hey, same as it is on the lot. But then after a while, they're like, yeah, what if we made changes and regulations to make it more even? So they do, at a glance, look like they're all exactly the same, but like different makes and models are still present. And if you make them, like if you used the stock versions of those cars, they would look very, like immediately noticeable as the different types of cars they are.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm saying, like, NASCAR, cars going 200 miles an hour, all that kind of stuff. They have very tight tolerances on
Yeah.
what you can and can't have, as far as, like, you're never going to run into a situation where one car is going to top out at 193 and another car is going to top out at 210.
Yeah, the fact that the new generation of cars were allowed to race in the same race as Lightning McQueen is kind of funny, really, because that's a lot of
Yeah.
European racing goes like that, where it's like, all right, well, we just have a bunch of different cars that are racing, and some of them are better in straight lines, and some of them are just faster than other ones. But they also have it so like, hey, there's two different sets of cars racing, and so we're all on the same track at the same time, but like the guy who's in first place might be in first place for a different division than you, so you don't really care about him. Like the guy in third place might be first place for his division.
Ah,
So like if it was working like that, I could see it like in real life where Jackson Storm was like first place for the new division, and then Lightning McQueen is like third place overall, but first place for his division of racing.
yeah. Because I'm just like, this is going back to, like, track and field, right? Where it's like, different people are faster. That's just how it is. You train, you get better. So that's
Yeah.
why they're all in the same race. But
Yeah.
if this were actually sticking with the NASCAR parallel, it's like, no, they're
It's
not.
like, yeah, this guy has robot legs. All the new guys, they've all got bionic legs, and they're in the same race as you, regular, like, fully human runner. They all have, like, cyborg legs. Not, like, prosthetic legs,
Yeah.
specifically cyborg legs.
Yeah.
Like, we've made them better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jackson Storm was, like, an electric motor. Like, there's no way an EV is running out there with, like, internal combustion cars.
Yeah, exactly. So it just felt way. That's another reason why it felt more like a track movie than it did the NASCAR movie.
Yeah, Jack, you mentioned that he clearly had an electric motor. I'm pretty sure in one of the trailers they mentioned that all the newer cars had electric engines and whatnot instead of combustion engines.
Yeah.
But it's never brought up in the movie.
Yeah, it's just a sound design detail. Like when he runs, he sounds like an electric car.
Hmm.
Which is really interesting that like in the Cars universe, NASCAR is basically just Formula E now.
Going back to the beginning of the movie, something I really wanted to touch on because I was like, oh, this is nice, and I think it kind of shows the development that Lightning has had from his rookie year to this late stage in his career. Just how he and those other two drivers are just, having their casual sportsmanship jabbing
yeah.
and
Oh yeah,
like
and
everyone's
pranks.
just kind of like having like a fun social
Yeah,
time
they're
while
just having a good time out there.
yeah, they're just partying on the track.
Your blinkers on, Cal. Yeah, well, yours is on too. Nice comeback, Cal.
Yeah,
that was
big
a good
rip
one.
on Cal though.
Yeah, they
Well,
really do.
Poor Cal.
Yeah.
He deserved nothing.
Well,
I think you meant to say
nothing.
that differently.
Wow.
He deserved nothing of what he got.
Well, he got nothing anyway in the end.
He had a sponsorship.
He had his
Yeah,
sponsorship.
He had the Dynaco
Dynaco.
sponsorship.
Yeah.
Also, I think it was implied that he was the king's nephew or something, didn't it? Like he said something about like I talked to my uncle and he said, "When do I know to quit?" So it's like his uncle is the thing. I think we can look up who the voice actors are because I'm pretty sure that's Cal is a specific race car driver.
Okay, I guess that would make sense.
Nepotism.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, like most of the race cars in the movie are like famous race or actual race car drivers.
Yeah.
Some of them are more obvious than others. Like obviously, if you don't know anything about like NASCAR racing, you're probably gonna miss most of them.
Also, can we talk about Big Tex being an utter dick to Cal?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I'll drop him in a second for you, Lightning.
I'm right here. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
We have all the good racers. Well, except for Cal.
Yeah.
Really?
Like he says in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I wasn't actually offering." And then at the end of the movie, he buys out Rusty so he can get McQueen.
So he can keep McQueen and then make Cruz the new Dynaco driver.
Like, sure, Cal. I'm just kidding. I wasn't serious. Buys out $1 billion corporation.
To be fair, Cal did retire at the end
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
last season.
Cal was retired.
It's true, but he was still there.
Yeah.
It was funny that he turns around. Like Big Tex comes in like twice in the movie, and the first time is to shit on Cal, and the second time buys out Rusty's.
And then throw shit on Cal.
Okay, yeah. No. But Cal Weathers is played by Kyle Petty. And I think Tex is played by Richard Petty, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I've just been waiting to talk about how I forgot that Tex was a 1%er oil baron until he was like, let's talk billionaire to billionaire. And then you just have like that little like ripple moment where you're like, oh, I forgot.
Is Richard Petty the king? I'm sorry, I'm
yes,
just... yeah.
Richard Perry is the king.
Okay, yeah, so it is the king and Cal are both Petties. So that's what the relationship is there, and that's why they're always clowning on him. Because nepotism.
Nepotism.
I just want to mention, like, just one time, that, like, there is so much ridiculous implied lore to the Cars universe. We don't have time to get into all of it here, but, like, there is, like,
Car Pope.
yeah, there's a car pope. There's a car pope, man.
World
Was that
War
in the
II.
second movie?
World War
Yeah.
II canonically happened in the Cars universe.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's Cars Christianity.
Sarge is his name, right?
Carstrianity?
I guess it's,
Get outta
it's
here.
Chrysler.
No,
It's
stop.
Chrysler. Jesus
Please.
Chrysler is the joke. So I don't know how you'd really translate that one, but still, the point is, there is so much implied car lore because of all of the things they have that we have,
Yeah.
and it's just it's amazing to think about. You can spend whole afternoons thinking about all of the things that must have happened in this universe that they're never going to talk about because they can't.
I mean, they could. Disney has the production money. They're just cowards.
Like how Lightning McQueen taped that trophy back together.
Yeah.
We're never gonna find out how he did that.
Also, I was waiting to see how they were gonna pass the like headset, like the stupidly huge headset that goes around the whole car, for when they're the crew chief.
Yeah.
When Smokey's up there with the headset on, trying to like give instructions to crews, and then eventually they just go, no, you take the headset. And they cut away, and then he comes back and he's rolling up with it on. I'm like, no, show me how you do this. How do you take the headset on and off?
There is an amazing other deleted scene from the first Cars movie, where at the end of the movie, Lightning McQueen goes, "Oh yeah, in Radiator Springs, it's back on the map." And in the movie, they just kind of cut to the picture of the map from before, where like Radiator Springs was like a grayed out dot. And then it like fades into, oh, the road's back on the map, and Radiator Springs is like a prominent point on it. But in the writer's room, the script just said, Lightning McQueen produces a map. And they spent so much time trying to figure out how he produces a map. Because it's like, okay, he produces a map. He doesn't have any arms. Does he have it on his undercarriage? And he just kind of stands up and shows her the map? And then one of them was like, oh, he like opens his trunk and the map is like in there. At one point, they suggested he opens his car door and a monkey comes out with the map.
He doesn't. He doesn't have doors, though.
I mean, they don't, because why would they need doors to see
No
inside
one
of their
goes
head?
in there.
Lightning specifically, Sally has doors.
Yeah, they have doors.
Lightning
The doors
does
don't
not
really
have
do
doors.
anything. Yeah. We don't know all the modifications he got after the second movie. He got to keep his headlights, which is an interesting detail. It's like, hey, you don't, for professional like NASCAR racing, you don't need headlights. They will just slow you down. But he kept them.
Yeah, that's part of why he got slower, is the headlights.
Yeah, he has headlights and rearview mirrors, and now the other NASCARs have those. And they're like, hey, man, you can take these back out, right?
They'll make you faster.
He doesn't have a door in this one because I noticed when
Yeah.
he was just in his primer outfit, I was like, there's no door line.
Yeah, he actually doesn't have a door. But the point is, they spent so much time, got so many people brainstorming how Lightning produces the map, and in the end, they're like, he just doesn't produce a map.
We can't do this.
Yeah, they could not think of a way to make that happen, so they just didn't.
I have an important question about the monkey version.
For
Was
real.
the monkey also a car?
In the little, they did not an animation with it, but an animatic. So they did an animatic where they showed all of the different options that they were brainstorming. In the animatic, it's just a monkey. There's just a regular monkey,
That raises so many questions.
which is why they didn't go with it. So yeah, no, I love the Cars universe. There are so many unanswered questions that it raises. It's amazing. Also, the Planes universe is the same universe. And you can tell that Pixar didn't really want to do that one, but it's there.
They had to do 2 of them.
They did.
Which actually, I wanted to bring up planes earlier when we were talking about how when you're born a specific kind of car, you have to do that job.
Oh, yeah.
Because the whole plot of the first Planes movie is that this is a crop duster that wants to be a racing plane.
Yeah. There's a part that this is literally the only Planes footage I've ever seen. There's a clip where they cut off a part of the plane to make him like faster. And it is really implied to be like they neutered him.
It's very heavily
What?
implied.
Very heavily implied that they neutered him to make him more aerodynamic.
Oh,
What?
no.
Just by like the editing of the scene. It's great.
We'll show
Okay.
you the clip, Josh.
I mean,
oh, no.
they did also just cut off Cruz's muffler.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because in the first movie, Lightning McQueen comes into Doc's office and he's doing something to the sheriff's undercarriage, and it was clearly implied to be embarrassing, and that was something Lightning McQueen didn't want to see. And in this movie, they just like hoist Cruz up and cut off a part of her undercarriage, and it's like, that's just okay. It's
Yeah.
just a thing. We've ignored this part of the lore because it's no longer convenient or funny. In fact, it's a little uncomfortable, so we're just not gonna do that. Was Doc Hudson a doctor the whole time?
I thought that was implied.
I thought he was he was
Yeah,
a
because
doctor
he had a
in the-
doctor's office.
Yeah, he had a doctor's office in a small town where there were like 8 people.
Yeah, he was their doctor.
He was also the judge.
Well, that's true.
I mean, it was a small town.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying, like, he was the fabulous Hudson Hornet, and he was, like, Doc Hudson, but, like, did he have a mechanical
I mean,
doctorate?
he had
50
50
years.
years.
He did. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to
He's
have
like,
had one.
I can't do racing anymore. What am I going to do with my life? I'll become a doctor.
So on actual Wikipedia, not a fan Wikipedia, it says Dr. Hudson Hornet MD.
A mechanical doctorate.
Great.
He got his law degree while he was being rebuilt.
And then he went to med school.
He went to med school because he
school?
wanted to help the next racer that got into a wreck like he did.
Yeah, he went to mech school.
I heard you. I'm not acknowledging it.
Mech school.
I hate it. I really, really hate it. Please never make a joke like that again.
You've only done one thing, and that's ensure that I will.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you know that wasn't my intention?
I'm gonna unplug your audio track.
I can mute anytime.
Whoever's in charge of editing this episode can just edit it out.
You think I won't just snatch this one?
So, any final thoughts on this glorious movie?
Glorious.
I
I
did.
don't know. I was just looking for a word.
Fabulous.
Okay. Fabulous. This fabulous
Fabulous.
movie.
Fabulous is good.
I don't think I brought it up earlier. I did want to bring up that Sterling. I almost called him Starling.
Star-Lord?
Sterling is like the secondary antagonist, but I wouldn't say he's a villain. I did
No.
like that there was a lot of truth to what he was saying. He was technically against our protagonist, and in the end he was wrong about like Lightning and trying to make him quit, but he was generally right overall, like just from his own. I mean, everyone's right from their point of view, but he was not a villain in the story. He was
Yeah.
just an antagonist, and I did like that.
I'd agree. Like when I was watching it for the first time, I saw him and was like, "This is gonna be the villain. He's gonna be the big bad." And then there really almost wasn't. There was no villain in this.
The real conflict of it is like
Mortality.
man versus time, or
Yeah, man
car versus time
car versus
in
self.
this sense.
Yeah,
It was just like the ultimate antagonist was just aging.
it was being done before you were ready to be done, and finding the strength to move on when it was time.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
How does that make you feel, Josh?
Look,
Look, I wasn't gonna bring it up, but we were all thinking it.
I know.
I was thinking about how poignant my fucking point was, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I thought we were just sitting with Jack's like beautiful analysis.
Anyway,
Then I gotta bring it back to the real world and me.
Look,
Look,
it is what it is.
I'll know when it's time to retire.
You're not that old, Josh.
you're not.
I was talking about Quidditch.
Yeah, you're also
Oh.
not that much. You're also
Quidditch
not that
been
much
brought
older
up
than
yet?
me. It's
No,
it has
it
not
hasn't.
been. This is a wild detail for everyone to learn.
Well, we'll leave that as a cliffhanger for next episode.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
On that note,
Well, this has been Cars, and we're HQ Movie Review. I'm Josh.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Brandon.
Good night, everybody. Hey, can you hear us while that's going?
Yes.
Neat.